want to speak today to the 7 principles of Bushido, and that's the samurai, the way of the warrior. Now, in addition to these 7 principles, I want to go through 5 keys to health and 3 states of mind. Before we do that, let me introduce myself, Steph from stephsoffandos.com, and today is really all about looking back at our history, our collective history, because I understand that not everybody has a Japanese lineage where this samurai code comes from, but it's our collective history. And what can we learn from that history? And importantly, how can we draw from the wisdom of that era and incorporate it into our lives today to further enhance our authentic expression, our expression of truth and integrity. And I want to begin now with the 7 virtues of a warrior. And I just want to caveat that my pronunciation of some of the Japanese words may not be accurate. I do apologise for that in advance, but I will endeavour to do my best. So, the first one, Jin, which is integrity. It's about right action. It's about maintaining the integrity of who we are. It's about authenticity, really. It's about that internal state being aligned with our external actions, irrespective of the consequence. So when we speak and we live that truth, irrespective of the consequence. Integrity is number 1. Yuki, courage, is number 2, is the second principle of the way of the warrior, the Bushido samurai way of the warrior. And it is courage, it is an inner strength and resilience that is deep within us. And we express that when we act, when we take rightful action. We express that courage in fullness. We step into who we are. And it's not necessarily about being on a battlefield with someone else or something else, but it's more about the battlefield within. It's about taking the courage to step into our strength, being resilient, that inner strength to battle our demons, to face the challenges that are part of life. I find that very important. Jin, benevolence. Now this is interesting. This is about expressing a disposition of love and affection to self and others, no matter what. Now, I know here this may sound like an oxymoron because traditionally the samurai is a warrior. They fight, they kill. But we must see beyond that cultural structure, that cultural norm, and we must go within. In my talks, in some of the philosophy that I express, the spirituality that we go through, the wisdom that we talk about, it's important to connect all of that to self as a starting point and then move to our external relationships. But the relationship to self is paramount. The 4th virtue, Ray, politeness, propriety, being kind, being polite to others, respecting their space. And in order to do that, we must be kind to ourselves. We must be polite to our own being. As we learn and as we grow through life, as we interpret many of life's experiences, the ups, the metaphorical ups and downs, the good, the bad, we must be polite and kind to ourselves in that space so that we can learn, that we can grow, we can maximize the potential of that experience. Being polite to others opens others up. It allows them to express themselves. In turn, we can gain more wisdom from their expression or their truthful, authentic, safe, open expression. Politeness is very, very important. Makoto, honesty, sincerity, that speaks for itself, but it's linked to authenticity as well. When we're sincere in our action, when we're sincere in who we are, in the way we express ourselves, when we're honest about our internal state, how we feel, think, our belief systems, and we express that accurately, in alignment and in integrity, with sincerity to the outer world, we are in a state of makoto, which is the fifth powerful principle of the Bushido way of the warrior. Meigo, honor. Now this was very, very powerful. This was a very powerful concept and principle and way of life in the samurai. The samurai code incorporated this greatly in many of its doctrines. But it's about ethical conduct. And again, let's move away from the cultural norms of those times where a lot of death and slaughter took place in war, but rather look at the philosophical principles that underpin the way of the warrior. And many would say the way of the peaceful warrior. Especially when we're relating to self, how one can live their lives. See, when we act in dishonor, and we do that repeatedly, it's like a scar on a tree. As the tree grows, parallel drawn as we grow. As the tree expands, parallel drawn as we expand. That scar gets bigger. That scar gets larger. It doesn't dissipate. When we're constantly in a state of dishonor with ourselves, or we lack integrity, or we're not expressing our true authentic nature, what happens? That scar gets bigger. Parallel drawn is we move away further and further. That distance grows larger and larger from our authentic, sincere, honest, open self. So honor is the sixth principle. Chugi. I hope I said that right. Chugi is loyalty. And it's about loyalty to self primarily. And again, I'm going to link this back to authenticity. I'm going to link this back to sovereign leadership, taking care of ourselves, leading ourselves through life in the most authentic way possible. Trust, and to show that trust and that loyalty unconditionally to others. Because when we do that, we allow the other to reciprocate that power. And there's this beautiful, positive, enriching, growth-promoting, evolving cycle of trust that takes place and expression. That's where growth takes place. Deep growth takes place right there and then. So they're the seven principles of the way of the warrior. And I now want to go into the 5 keys to health, or to optimal health. Again, there is a strong link here to the ancient samurai. Separate to the Bushido way of the warrior, and some would say this is a 7-5-3 code, because there's 7 virtues of the warrior, there's 5 keys to health, and there's 3 states of mind, or 3 Zen states of mind. So this is definitely linked to Zen Buddhism. So 5 keys to health is rational nutrition is number 1. Now this is interesting, because in the diversity of our culture today, that word rational, and then couple that with rational nutrition, is so subjective. What is rational nutrition? I don't want to go into so much all the different types of diets, for example, or nutritional philosophies, but rather rational nutrition, if we had to sum it up in 1 or 2 words, it's about balance primarily. And it's about maintaining the integrity of the food, vitamins, minerals, macronutrients, micronutrients that we're putting into our body. It's understanding that. So it means that we need to educate ourselves. It means we need to understand what's right for our bodies. It means we need to understand the way we physically interact with our environment. We need to understand the way the body, the internals work. Does it mean we need to be a medical doctor or a professor? No, not at all. It means we need to show enough interest in ourselves for our nutrition that we care enough for who we are. Number 2, sensible exercise and movement. Again, the word sensible, the adjective sensible. It is subjective. It is open to opinion. What's sensible for someone else may not be sensible to another based on their different belief systems or their differing belief systems. And that's okay. But what's important here is movement. Move the body. In ancient yogic principles, in Ayurvedic medicine, moving the body is very important. So yoga is an integral part of that. Gentle, light exercise increases longevity. But we also know there's great benefits in high intensity training through modern research and so forth. But it's about striking that balance. Again, not to go into it today because that's not the lecture for today, or that's not the conversation we're having today, but it's about understanding movement and how important it is to manipulate the body, to manipulate the physiology, to get mobile, to get flexible, to get strong, to increase our neural strength, to increase the integrity of our connective tissue, to lengthen and improve our range of motion through our joints, to ensure that we have power production in our body, that we can produce power adequately, that we're agile, that we have balance and coordination. Your path and what you align with will be dictated by how deep you look into it. But move. It's so important to move. And not only terrestrially, move in the ocean as well. The third principle, the third key to health is efficient rest. This is crucial. We miss this so often. The samurai would move immensely, would have such discipline in their physical practice, in their wielding of their apparatus, their swords, in their martial arts, in their physically intense meditations. But there was always time for reflection. There was always time for careful consideration of self and rest, resting the body and resting the mind, creating almost a void in the mind. And we actually come to that later in the 3 Zen states of mind as well. But efficient rest is so important because the physiological body needs to recover and recuperate. And the mind must rest as well from being busy. When we're too busy, we're too active. The neural system is sharp. It's on fire all the time. It's active. The more active we are, the less opportunity we have for cellular regeneration to take place. So that rest is crucial to keep us youthful, to allow us to experience longevity in life in many different ways. Fourth key tenet to health, proper hygiene. Now, the samurai warrior would spend hours almost every day ensuring their hygiene was so adequate, optimal. And the way they would move, they'd move with such intent and sincerity in preparing themselves for their day. Proper hygiene allows the body to move and to be in an optimal state of being. And that's very, very important, looking after our inner health. And that's what hygiene effectively is. It's looking after our inner health, which is of course closely linked to nutrition and engaging in a process or principle of rational nutrition. But maintaining the body, the inner body, and also the outer body, of course, is so important in life. It shows, it tells life, it tells others that you respect yourself, that you value your life. Because we all know that improper hygiene can lead to disease, can lead to sickness and illness, can lead to dysfunction. So when we're hygienic, when we engage in these 5 keys to proper health, or these tenets to proper health, we're effectively telling the world we value ourselves. We value ourselves as a human being in this world. We value what we have to offer, and we value the experience of life. When we are in that posture, when we're in that state where we're emitting that energy, we're going to get more of that. It's like attracts like. So proper hygiene is crucial to understanding ourselves at depths, exploring ourselves, but also adding value to our lives. It's very, very important. And finally, the 5th tenet to health is a positive attitude. But what does this mean? Because we can't negate having a negative attitude, because that's part of our life. Sometimes we're going to get upset, we're going to be challenged, we're going to be angry, we're going to be sad, we're going to be frustrated. But it's how long we stay in that state and how often we allow that to control us and rule who we are that dictates whether or not we have an overall positive attitude. Because we can still feel not great, we can still feel negative, but have an overall positive attitude because we understand the place that negativity has in our lives. We understand the balance of equanimity, or rather the equanimity in life. And that's so important to leading a life of positivity where we can choose to focus on what's working, because our focus determines our reality. Our focus and our perception, the vantage point or points we take on life determine the type of life we live. And here I link this to a stoic attitude as well, an attitude of being where we see challenges, we see perceived negativity as something that can enhance our growth, that can build us up, that can make us strong, powerful, resilient. I see that very powerful. I see that, I observe that as a powerful tool to enhance our lives. So they're the 5 key principles to health. And I want to now move to as part of the 753 code, I want to now move to the 3 Zen states of being. And again, I hope I get the pronunciation right on this one. But the first one is Zanshin, or alertness, awareness. It's a vigilant, all-encompassing awareness that is detached and it is very, very present. But what does that awareness mean? Well, that awareness means you know who you are. That awareness means that, or that awareness symbolizes that you understand not only your external surroundings, but your internal state of being. Zanshin is so important in being able to evolve ourselves, in being able to grow, to expand our consciousness. It begins with awareness. It begins with Zanshin. And I find that very, very, very interesting. Next is Mushin, clarity of mind. Wow. It's almost a mind without mind. And I get deep into this because I love this concept. It's being in a state of spontaneity. It's linked closely, strongly, powerfully to our intuition. There's a knowing that takes place that allows our minds to be almost empty of fear. You see, the Mushin, Mu, means empty. So it's devoid of anger, devoid of frustration, devoid of fear. And this absence creates a present moment awareness, a present moment focus where we're able to be mind without mind. We're able to be here, now, present, clear. And the three Zen states of mind is all about that. It's about being now, in the present, living where you are. And this is yes, an advanced state of being, but it's something that we can practice and we can work towards. And it's perfect. Practice makes perfect. And because something's difficult, does that mean we shouldn't try? Or because something is challenging, does that mean we shouldn't immerse ourselves in that space? Isn't there great success and learning and growth in the process? Of course there is. That's how we evolve. That's how we grow, by being in that process. And the third state is fudoshin. And that's the third state of being. And that's an emotional imbalance. That's an emotional balance. What I wanted to say was it's devoid of having emotional imbalance. So essentially what that is emotional intelligence. It's having an immovable mind. And again, we talk about stoicism here. It's having a stoic posture. It's when we have an immovable mind, we are not threatened by challenge. We're not threatened by danger. We're not threatened by difficulty and pain, because we understand it, because we have an awareness. We have a zanshin. And through that stoic, immovable mind, we observe that challenge, we observe that difficulty, we observe that pain as part of our growth, as part of our journey, as part of our own evolution, our all-encompassing evolution. And that immovable mind, that stoic nature, embraces challenge because it knows, that posture knows, that philosophical disposition knows with everything that it is, that challenge, that pain, that difficulty, that hard time that we experience culturally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, relationally today, it's part of our journey, but we can learn from, we can grow from it, we can then give that wisdom, we can pass that wisdom to others. But more importantly than that, we can pass it to ourselves. Man, I like that. I love that. Recently I've really got into stoicism and the power of it. And I draw that parallel as well in Japanese culture, in the samurai culture. So I want to wrap that up now, guys, and I want to say thank you so much for listening, and look further into the 7 virtues of a warrior, the Bushido way of the warrior, and the 753 code that has been elaborated over time, over hundreds of years, and look at the 5 key tenets of health and the 3 Zen states of mind, because we've just scraped, I don't even know we've scraped the surface of scraping the surface of scraping the surface. I think that's what we've done. But we're just dropping the ocean, one salt grain in the ocean of what the power of this philosophy and how we can incorporate it into our everyday lives. And if we're not growing, guys, if we're not evolving, we're devolving. And that's the truth. And the only way we evolve is by immersing ourselves in wisdom, knowledge, surrounding ourselves by understanding our human potential and elaborating on our human potential, believing in who we are, in our infinite potential, and then just throwing ourselves in there. And then applying these newfound learnings or teachings. Does it work? Does it not? It's okay. It's a journey. But we need to get into that space. If we just sit complacently and we just, in life, and we are lazy and we're not courageous in taking steps towards our evolution, we're devolving. And that's not good for us, and it's not good for those around us. It's not good for our collective whole, our earth, the people in our lives, the people that are in our immediate sphere of awareness and our immediate circle of influence, and even beyond, our communities beyond that, our global community, ecological and human and animal and biological and etc. Thank you again for listening. If you're interested in more lecture series that I've put through and forward, please visit my website, www.stefsafandos.com. And I thank you very, very much.